Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here, as always, to cut through the noise and get straight to what you need to know from the material you've shared. Today, we're tackling something pretty surprising, actually. America's rapidly growing disability crisis. Just get this statistic. Over the last 5 years, the disabled population in the U.S., it's grown by over 30%.
30%.
Yeah, 30%. And the total population only grew about 3% in that same time.
Wow.
So it really makes you wonder, right? With all our medical breakthroughs, technology, why does America seem more disabled? That's our mission today, to figure out why. And spoiler alert, it's way more than just medical issues. We're talking systemic stuff, economic factors, even bureaucracy.
It absolutely flies in the face of what you'd expect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Better healthcare should mean, well, less disability, not more. So yeah, this deep dive, we really need to look under the hood, get past the obvious assumptions. The research points towards something like a systemic breakdown.
Okay, let's unpack these numbers then. That 30% is shocking, but what else do the sources tell us about the sheer scale here?
Well, it gets pretty specific. You look at certain counties in the U.S., and believe it or not, over 1 in 3 people are out of work because of a disability.
1 in 3 in some places.
Think about that concentration
Yeah.
and the money side. It's huge. Disability support is now the #2 expense for Social Security, right behind retirement. And get this, we spend more on disability payments than on food stamps and welfare combined.
Wow.
So it's definitely not some small niche thing. It's massive.
Yeah.
And the sources also point out this post-COVID trend. The disabled population grew faster than the general population for 3 years straight.
That's an incredible burden, financially and personally. But when we think disability, often specific things come to mind. Are those the traditional conditions driving this surge?
That's a really key question. And this is where it gets, well, fascinating. The type of disability has really changed. You know, we might think of heart disease, strokes, maybe serious neurological issues.
Yeah.
But the analysis, it shows those traditional causes have actually gone
Down because of better treatment. Yeah.
Exactly. Better medicine, better interventions. But what shot up instead? Mental illness, the sources say, partly due to better diagnosis, which makes sense. And this is the really striking one. Chronic back pain and spinal issues.
Back pain.
Yeah. They're apparently 4 times more common as a cause for disability than they used to be.
4 times.
And that raises a big question, right? Why these? Well, unlike, say, a very clear physical impairment, chronic pain it's subjective. It's much harder to medically prove or disprove, which means it's, well, complex. It can be misunderstood and, yeah, potentially misused within the system, too.
And I guess those raw numbers start to hit differently when you hear the stories behind them. There's that powerful anecdote in the material from a doctor in one of those really high disability counties. It highlights kind of stark truth. What did the doctor say?
Yeah, that story is incredibly telling. This doctor basically observed something like this.
Yeah.
If you have chronic back pain, right, and you also have a college degree,
Yeah.
you'll probably find an office job. Maybe
Yeah.
you work remotely. It's not fun. You're uncomfortable. But you adapt. You manage. You keep working.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you have that exact same back pain, but no degree, and all the jobs near you are manual labor, standing all day,
Then you're stuck.
then you are much more likely to end up declared disabled. Same medical issue, totally different life outcome.
So that's stark truth. It's saying disability isn't always just about the medical condition itself. It can be an economic dead end, a last resort.
Precisely. It really clarifies things. People in poorer areas aren't necessarily more injured or sick in some fundamental way. They just have fewer escape routes, fewer options. The economic reality basically corners them into claiming disability just to survive.
So education becomes this huge dividing line.
It really does. Your level of education can be the deciding factor in whether you're disabled or not in the eyes of the system. It shifts it from being just a medical problem to a socioeconomic one. And if you zoom out, it paints this picture of what one report calls a 2-tier America.
2 tiers.
Yeah, 1 tier for the educated folks who have flexibility, they can adapt their work. Another tier for those without that education, where something like chronic pain just slams the door shut because of the kind of jobs available and these systemic barriers. It points to a real failure in, like, economic design.
That makes sense, but it also brings up something else the statistics show. There was a recent dip, right, in the number of people actually getting disability support. Does that mean fewer people are actually disabled now?
No, and that's a really important clarification the material makes. It's a common misconception. That drop in people receiving benefits, it's mostly down to things like administrative backlogs, slowdowns.
Oh, bureaucracy.
Exactly. Stricter rules for eligibility. And these incredibly long wait times. We're talking over a year sometimes just to get a decision.
A year.
Yeah, yeah. And then there are these technical disqualifications. Things that sound small but knock people out of the running.
Like what?
Like maybe you miss a doctor's appointment because you couldn't get transport. Or you live with family and their income is suddenly counted as too high for you to qualify. Or you couldn't afford to stick to a treatment plan because you don't have insurance.
Things that hit poorer people harder.
Disproportionately, yes. Meanwhile, someone with more money, they can hire a lawyer, get all the right medical reports lined up, navigate that whole complex maze.
Okay, so the system itself creates barriers. And this leads to another point, right? How these disability claims sometimes mask bigger economic problems. What's the connection there?
It has a pretty significant effect on how we see the economy. See, people on disability aren't counted in the unemployment numbers because technically they are actively looking for work.
Right. They're off the books in a way.
Exactly. And the research shows a really clear link. When long-term unemployment goes up, disability claims tend to spike too,
Ah, interesting.
especially in areas that have lost industries, deindustrialized places.
Huh.
It becomes, well, one analysis suggested it could be a convenient way for governments to kind of hide economic decline.
Yeah,
You shift people from the unemployment stats over to disability.
that's quite a claim.
The provocative finding in the analysis, yeah.
Now, maybe the most counterintuitive part of all this, based on the material, is who really benefits from this complicated mess. You might think it's people gaming the system, but the research says, no, it's not the poor who are abusing it. So who is benefiting from this disability industrial complex?
Right, that's where you see the system's incentives laid bare. It's not really set up to primarily help the disabled person efficiently. The material points to a few key groups who actually profit from the complexity. You've got private consulting firms, for example. They make good money processing disability applications for the government or helping people apply. Then there are potentially government entities themselves that might strategically underfund Social Security staffing, which slows things down and ultimately reduces payouts. And of course, lawyers and various middlemen thrive in a system that's complicated and hard to navigate on your own. The more complex it is, the more people need help, and the more opportunities there are to profit from that need.
So the complexity itself creates its own economy.
In a way, yes. It raises real questions about who this system is truly designed to serve.
Okay, so it paints a pretty bleak picture. Complexity, systemic issues, hidden incentives. But the material does say solutions exist. They talk about modest reforms. It sounds like this isn't some impossible problem. What kind of solutions are we talking about?
Yeah, and that's almost the frustrating part. The solutions outlined seem pretty practical, actually. Not pie-in-the-sky stuff. First off, just improving job flexibility, making remote work or seated jobs more accessible, especially in those rural areas where manual labor is often the only option.
Makes sense. What else?
Reducing those crazy wait times. How? Well, by hiring more staff at Social Security to process claims faster. It sounds simple, but it would make a huge difference. And third, making the whole process more humane. Actually taking into account someone's socioeconomic reality, not just a narrow medical checklist, considering things like education and local job options.
Those do sound like common sense reforms. Practical. So the big question then is, why are they ignored if the solutions are there?
Well, instead of doing those things, the system just keeps funneling people into this limbo state, either poverty or just endless bureaucracy. And the main reason cited in the analysis, politics. Politicians tend to avoid tackling the issue directly.
Right.
They want to sidestep political backlash. Fixing it is complex, potentially expensive up front, and doesn't offer easy political wins.
So it's easier to just let the broken system limp along?
That seems to be the takeaway, which loops back to the bigger idea. This crisis isn't just about health. It really reflects a fundamental failure of economic design, hitting the most vulnerable people the hardest.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive, it really shows that America's disability crisis isn't some sudden plague of sickness. It's more like a slow-motion breakdown of the system, a failure of economic design, as you said, that hits people without resources the hardest. What seems like a medical issue on the surface has these incredibly deep economic and social roots.
Absolutely. And maybe the final thought to leave people with is this. Go back to that two-tier America idea. What does it really mean for a society when the same physical condition, like chronic back pain, basically ends one person's working life, but it's just a manageable inconvenience for someone else,
Mm.
simply because of their education, their zip code, the kinds of jobs available? What does that tell us about our priorities, about what our safety nets are actually designed to do and who they truly catch?
Powerful questions indeed. Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope these insights spark your own curiosity about how health, the economy, and our social systems are all tangled together.